No.
Hello, welcome to this week's Opening Bell. I'm boxing news editor Tris Dixon. Thanks for joining us. I'm here, as often is the case, with Matt Christie. How's it going, Matt?
Yeah, good. You're speaking really quickly. Does this mean we've got to get through it in double quick time?
No, it's probably like a nervous tick now that's come along.
Okay.
No, we're coasting. We're coasting today.
Cool. We've got a bit of time. That's good.
Yeah. There's no more BS.
Apparently so.
And if you've seen this week's issue or not, I recommend you take a look, because that's exactly what Tyson Fury said in an exclusive interview that I've done with Tyson ahead of his return to the ring on Saturday night. Matt, you're not going to be ringside, but no doubt you'll be watching it at some point. Are you looking forward to seeing the return of Tyson Fury?
I am looking forward to seeing the return of Tyson Fury. I will be blogging, hopefully, as long as my daughter gets off to sleep okay. But yeah, I should be blogging live so people can get involved that way. But really looking forward to Fury. I think the opponent is not that inspiring for someone who now is widely thought of as a top 10 heavyweight. But he's got to start somewhere. He's been out of the ring for a long time. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens.
You say that. I mean, obviously Fury's been clobbered a few times in recent fights. He hasn't fought recently, but in his fights. And so he's fighting a guy with 28 knockouts and 29 wins. I mean, that's the part of the allure of Tyson, though, isn't it? You know, the fact that he could go over.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he could be beaten. I'm not saying Joe Abel's in his class at all. But, you know, there could be some entertainment there with him against a puncher and him taking it for granted, as he often seems to do.
Yeah, well, he went through a phase, didn't he, a couple of years ago when he was on the way up, when he fought the likes of Nikolai Ferter, and I forget the other guy, I can't remember his name.
He ate some massive right hands.
And he actually got dropped, and it was it was a peculiar sight, because I was ringside for that when he actually got dropped, seeing someone of that size fall on his back. So yeah, he can take punches. He's not a perfect fighter, but it would be a massive upset if Abel did anything other than caused him a few uncomfortable moments. I don't really expect those, to be honest.
Why are you looking forward to seeing Tyson Fury fighting on Saturday night?
Because he's a massive in more than one sense of the word. He's a massive heavyweight contender, and at the moment he's involved in this whole new revolution for me. He's one of the key players since Vitaly Klitschko has walked away from the sport. And Fury, in 3 or 4 years' time, should be approaching his peak. So let's get involved with this journey. Okay.
He's fighting on the Copper Box show, which also features the return of the enigmatic Dereck Chisora, who's fighting Kevin Johnson. That's fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Enigmatic? It's
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Description.
Yeah.
Chisora, Kevin Johnson. Is it a tougher fight for Dereck than the one that Fury's got?
I doubt that Johnson will be any more willing than Abel, unfortunately. But I think really this fight, if it's an entertaining fight, I'll be surprised. Johnson Chisora. I was there when basically Chisora was told that he had Kevin Johnson. Then it was at the press conference, and Chisora was there saying he only found out 20 minutes ago. And excitement was certainly not the word I'd use to describe his emotion upon finding out who his opponent would be. And you can understand that. Perhaps we're underestimating Johnson a little bit. Widely beaten by Vitaly Klitschko, who was much bigger. Widely beaten by Tyson Fury, who was much bigger again. Perhaps Johnson might fancy his chances against a shorter Dereck Chisora. But you have to wonder how much ambition he's got left. And let's face it, he's only found out about this fight at short notice. And he knew about the Vitaly Klitschko fight and the Fury fight for a lot longer. And he certainly didn't inspire on either of those two occasions.
I think you need to slow down a little bit.
Well, I'm just.
In a hurry,
I'm trying to sound less boring to our listeners. I'm trying to sound exciting, vibrant, like I'm loving life, which of course I am.
Okay. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, I've spoken to all of those guys actually this week, with the exception of Joey Abel. I've also spoken to Deontay Wilder, and one thing that I've said in the digital edition, in the video on that, and I won't sort of repeat it word for word, but one thing that I'm captivated by is this mix of personalities in the heavyweight division that's coming through.
Yeah.
That aren't the Klitschkos. Or even if you factor Vladimir into the equation now, you've got Vladimir, Chisora, Fury, Wilder, possibly Bryant Jennings. There's some matches there that will get me excited, and I'm not saying I'm going to see Ali Frazier 1. I'm not going to say I'm going to see Foreman Ali or anything like that. But the blend of personalities and fighting styles leaves the door open for some really entertaining fights in a division that's been asleep for a decade.
Yeah, it really has. It reminds me a little bit, and I don't think we're going to. Certainly, you mentioned that era of the 70s there, and I don't think we're even about to see anything like the 90s, where we had like Holyfield and Riddick Bowe and Tyson, his second incarnation. But it reminds me of that a little bit when you had a few heavyweights to get excited about. When Riddick Bowe, Bruce Seldon, Tommy Morrison, Ray Mercer were all starting out. It reminds me of that a little bit, and let's hope that, like you say, I can't remember a time in recent history where we have been just a little bit excited about the heavyweight division. I think it's fair to say we both are at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Another fight on that copper box bill, Vivian Harris, Bradley Skeet. Good fight for Skeet?
I think that's been called off. Apparently, according to Vivian Harris's Facebook, he failed the British medical after previously getting the all clear over in America. So I think that's been called off. It would have been a good test for him, but Harris was certainly looking like at the marks of a shot fighter for a while now.
There you go, breaking news on this week's opening bell.
You heard it here first. Well, if you haven't been on Facebook this morning, anyway.
Yeah. So there was some interesting stuff from Deontay Wilder this week in the guest column. What do you make of Wilder and how he fits into the division?
I like Deontay Wilder. There was a part of me which reminded me of Michael Grant a little bit, who was exposed by Lennox Lewis, but he was kind of but I think Wilder perhaps has got a bit more ability about him. I think the thing that concerns me about Deontay Wilder is I've spoke to some people in America, and there are kind of rumours doing the rounds that he can't take a punch. We haven't seen that yet, but with every heavyweight in history, that's going to be a criticism that's kind of aimed at them before they have that fight, before they have that chance to define themselves in the ring. But for me, Wilder, his personality, that punching power is something absolutely ferocious. It's almost out of this world. So yeah, quite excited to see what happens with Deontay Wilder. And also, I mean, if he can somehow lay his hands on the WBC belt at the end of the year, maybe Vladimir Klitschko against Deontay Wilder in America would be huge.
Yeah, you could see that doing big business in the US, couldn't you? That fight. Okay, interesting stuff. With regards to what else we've got in the magazine this week, as well as my big interview with Tyson Fury, we've got the first part of a three episode series with Bernard Hopkins. Actually, it's not with Bernard Hopkins, it's by Nigel Collins, who's chronicled the life and times of Bernard Hopkins, and it is thoroughly engaging and well worth a read. Some really good behind-the-scenes stuff here. The first part about the start of Bernard Hopkins' career, just putting together the second part for next week's magazine. And there's also a fascinating insight into the life and times of Anne Wolfe by Thomas Jabasi. Really, really cracking feature in there. Well worth looking up. Matt, elsewhere this week, the result of the poll has been announced. It looks like the fight we're perhaps not so desperate to see, Khan and Mayweather, is going to happen on May the 3rd.
It's looking that way, isn't it? It's looking that way.
I know. Now, let me see. I never said I didn't want to see it, though. I said that there's more worthy challenges out there and that Floyd should be looking for other people. Still intrigued to see it. But, I mean, I think at the same time, it's not like I'm intrigued to see it in the sense that I'm going to race out and put 20 quid on Amir Khan to win.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that, to be honest with you.
Go slightly slower, not race out.
Yeah, just have a little amble and have a think about it.
No, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not even going to become an apologist for the fight. Obviously, now it looks like it's going to be made, because that's not the case. Still think Mayweather would have been better looking for a guy who's got some form at welterweight, or at light middleweight, or ideally for me as a fight fan, stepping up to middleweight and testing himself.
Or at least someone who's active.
Yeah, that too. I mean, Khan hasn't fought now. It would have been April.
Yeah.
And one fight in 20 months, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or two fights in 18 months or something, isn't it? Because the Carlos Molina fight was in the preceding December, so December and April.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing is that Khan perhaps brings something that other opponents don't. Let's not go down that road again. But the fact that Khan hasn't fought anyone world class, okay, you can make the argument that Julio Diaz is world class because of what he achieved in the past, but he's not at that level anymore. But the last 2 times Khan has been in with someone at world level, he was knocked out in 4 rounds and he was controversially beaten over 12.
Yeah, I think it's and obviously, like I said, there's no form at welterweight either.
No.
Providing the fight will be made at that weight. So, interesting stuff. I mean, what happened? Obviously, it's not been confirmed, but what do you think happens to Maidana next?
There was some talk that Adrian Broner was gonna have that rematch. I suspect because that was quite heavily rumoured a while just after Christmas or around Christmas time, and that was from Adrian Broner himself. I suspect that Broner has been talked out of doing that, which is perhaps wise.
Maybe they should put that on the undercard.
Brilliant to have on the undercard, yeah.
Put that on the undercard. Why don't if providing James DeGale comes through his fight, then obviously you got Mayweather Promotions Badou Jack. You could put James DeGale Badou Jack on that bill. Yeah, makes sense. Get some British involvement over there, seeing as well, I'm not convinced that Khan's going to be taking 20,000 out like Ricky Hatton did to Las Vegas.
No, I can't see that. He'll get some support out there though, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not at all a criticism, but the Brits don't need any excuse to go out to Las Vegas for a week in the spring, do they?
No.
So yeah, interesting. Okay, where else are we this week? What's going on online?
What's going on online? There's a few bits and bobs actually. There's something interesting I think you wanted to mention. In one way or another, was about Muhammad Ali's gloves, which are up for auction at the end of February in New York, February 22nd, I believe, which will be 2 years before the 50-year anniversary of when Ali, or Cassius Clay as he was then, won his first world title, when he stopped Sonny Liston after he retired after 6 rounds. And those very, very gloves are going up for auction, and they're expected to raise $500,000.
Yeah. And that does segue quite nicely on something I wanted to ask. Each week, as I mentioned last week, we do something on the website, Heroes and Villains. This week, Matt's posed a question to the team. If you could buy any one item and money was no object from boxing's past, what would you buy and why? And now I'm going to make this into a competition. One winner, so the best answer, will get sent something from the Boxing News office. Not make it sound like stationery or something, some paper clips. I don't know what, maybe a Boxing News annual and something else. Yeah. So send in your best answer. What would you buy and why if money was no object? What would you buy, and that boxing memorabilia wise? I'd be interested to know what you think. And one of the rules is you can't use one of the answers that's being used on the website.
So you're going to have to check the website. I like what you're doing.
See that? I'm getting those page views. Yeah. So, or trying to get those page views. So check out this week's Heroes and Villains. See what we've done on the website and give us something different. Okay. Elsewhere this week, we've got Chris Algieri, who's fighting on Friday night on ESPN. There's a smaller show in France. Eurosport bring back to the table a show in Germany. But mostly it's about the Copper Box this week. There's a show coming up in Ireland, Hassan Damjikam, who you've seen ringside.
I've seen him, yeah. Saw him against Quillen, a cracking fighter.
In GCAM?
Yeah.
Or cracking fight or cracking fighter?
I thought he was a good fighter. I had him. I think he got knocked down like 4 times. If it hadn't have been for those knockdowns, I'd have had him ahead in that fight, I think.
Quillen's an interesting guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Interesting character. I'd be interested. I mean, what's interesting about that division is obviously it looks like Martinez is going to fight Miguel Cotto on June the 7th. Providing Martinez comes through that, and you can't say for sure that he will, but providing he does, Martinez and Golovkin, there seem to be the top 2, and then there's everyone else jostling. But doesn't that seem to be the case? Which is another reason why Martinez and Golovkin seem such a natural fight to happen.
I hope it does happen. I don't think it will, but I really, really hope it does happen at some point down the line, or if Cotto springs the upset. Cotto against Golovkin. I think like the heavyweights. I think like the heavyweight division, the middleweight division for me is probably historically my next favourite. And I think those two divisions, they need a unified champion.
I think Golovkin crunches Cotto.
Yeah, you'd say that, wouldn't you? But what if Cotto comes out, blasts Martinez out?
I still don't think Cotto's the same fighter that he was pre-Margarito 1.
No, it took a lot out of him, didn't it? But I think the way that he did rebuild after that, and also he had that punishing fight against Pacquiao, which is perhaps Pacquiao's finest ever moment. He still came, because he looked, for me, I thought, no, that's it, Cotto's done. But he has re-established himself as one of the premier forces in the game. And fair play to him for that.
You talk about Pacquiao's great moments. It might be a great moment for Pacquiao in April. You're heading out to see Pacquiao-Bradley.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts ahead of that fight? I mean, what type of fight are you expecting? What kind of buzz do you think that fight can feasibly generate?
I think that the main story of the first fight was the controversy of the decision. It wasn't in anybody's list for fight of the year. It wasn't a brilliant fight. Perhaps their styles may not mesh, but I think if any fighter is going to get Pacquiao's, his savagery back, perhaps it's this one. Perhaps it's this one, because maybe he will want to go out there and take it out of the judges' hands. I'm of the belief that Pacquiao has got some years left in him, not as that crazed, destroyer he was before. I think we're going to see new facets to his game, and I think perhaps we'll start to see that against Bradley. I, head on the block, fancy Pacquiao to win this and really, really get some momentum going for the end of his career.
Okay. All right. What else is going on?
It's cold, isn't it?
It is cold out there. We need a. Yeah, we could do with some heavyweight action this weekend to I don't know, to do something with.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that because obviously this is almost like a trailer, isn't it, to what we hope to be a summer blockbuster between Tyson Fury and Dereck Chisora, and I just hope that we get some good action at some point to get the juices flowing for that fight.
I talked a bit about rematches in my column this week. There's Froch Groves II, which looks like it could be close to being made, and that'll be at the end of May. And if Khan Mayweather is at the start of May, if you had to buy one pay-per-view, Khan Mayweather, Froch Groves, based on the main event, and you can only see one, which one are you going to buy, and why?
It's going to have to. Froch, to me, that's almost a no-brainer. Froch Groves. First one was a great fight. It's got the story just keeps building and building between the pair of them. To be honest with you, although I've enjoyed sitting back and watching Floyd Mayweather masterclasses, I'm never getting close to the edge of my seat. Whereas I was really off it for the first Froch Groves fight.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Obviously, Frank Warren's looking to put together the Chisora Fury rematch, like I say. How would you see that fight going any differently to the first fight?
It's really, to me, that's a really hard fight to call. I'll be interested to see how they both look at the weekend. Chisora has been in excellent form recently. I've had quite a few conversations since that first Fury fight with John Charles, Chisora's trainer. He is adamant, absolutely adamant, that Chisora, and of course he's got to say this, but he's said certain things as well that really you sense that Chisora really fancies that rematch against Tyson Fury. I was there for the first fight, and there were moments in that fight where Chisora really was making life uncomfortable for Fury. He was getting inside the lead, he was banging away with short hooks on the inside, and he just didn't seem to have the fitness. He couldn't sustain that level of attack for 12 rounds. If he can do that for 12 rounds, then I think we've got a really, really interesting rematch.
Yeah, because I think Fury will come in better shape than he ever has done before, which should be intriguing. See, David Hayes made some noise about possibly coming back, providing his injury heals. I think he said providing he can get to about 85%, that will be enough for him to come back. We'll obviously have to see. But Fury Chisora, I find it really interesting. I think they've both improved. Chisora, you have to give him an A for his activity. 4 fights, 4 wins last year. which is great. But don't forget, I mean, he got hit and wobbled a little bit in his last fight.
Yeah.
He didn't dazzle was it the fight before that when he sort of understandably struggled after so soon after the loss of Dean Powell. The fight before, obviously, we didn't have things all his own way against Malik Scott, who's a good heavyweight, and there are many people saying that fight shouldn't have been stopped. So I'm not sure that this 4-0, 4 wins is flattering to deceive a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many top 10 heavyweights were in those top 4? None.
No, I agree with you. Gerber was exposed by Michael Sprott beforehand. He lost he lost a 10-round decision to Michael. No disrespect to Michael Sprott there. And of course, Malik Scott he hasn't got a victory on his record over anybody noteworthy. I think what was impressive for me in terms of Chisora is he was so low after being knocked out by David Haye. That loss came on the back of some disappointing results. He seems to have his confidence back. He's got his focus back. And what's impressive for me is his levels of fitness. Is it the lightest he's been? He just seems really, really dedicated. And I think if any fighter if anybody's looking at making a run at a boxing career, they've really, really got to be sure that they're in top physical shape. They're giving everything the best they possibly can. And I think for the first time in his career, Dereck Chisora can say that.
Okay, interesting. You've mentioned in a news story here about Jean Pascal wanting a third fight with Bernard Hopkins. We've put it out to some of the readers what would happen should Hopkins fight Sergey Kovalev, whose latest fight was announced last night. Hopkins-Kovalev, Matt, who wins and how?
You've got to favour Kovalev. He's he's not just like a mindless slugger, head down, bombs away. It's an educated approach to destruction, and you'd have to favour him. Hopkins has really been picking opponents recently that he's convinced he'd beat, and I'm sure he's convinced he'd beat Kovalev. I'd have to favour Kovalev. It's not a fight that I'd like for a 49-year-old man to take. At some point, he's gonna lose if he fights the likes of Kovalev, and he's possibly going to get knocked out as well. You don't want to see that. But you can understand why people would pick Hopkins, because on paper, Kovalev, knockout artist, like Kelly Pavlik, like Tavoris Cloud, who Hopkins could possibly pick apart and school
and expose.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, that's what Hopkins has done best, isn't it, over the years? I mean, Felix Trinidad, another.
Yeah.
So, yeah, plenty of school for thought there for Hopkins Kovalev. I wonder if they will try to do it. One of Hopkins' greatest hours was obviously at the Boardwalk Hall, where Kovalev fights next at the end of March. Be interesting to see what route they do go down. Obviously, the fight that everyone wants is Kovalev-Stevenson. So all being well, HBO will bank some money from this Stevenson fight or Kovalev fight, and then they can get those two in together.
Yeah. I mean, I think for Hopkins, I mean, they initially were talking about Shumenov, weren't they, for him? That, I think, would be a better... Let's stick him in with Shumenov. Let's see how he gets on with Shumenov, who looked impressive last time out. If Hopkins is still dominating these young guys, then perhaps we can start to think about Kovalev.
Okay. All right. I think that just about brings us to a close today, Matt. Is there anything that you wanted to add to our listeners in closing?
I don't think so.
You're happy with that?
Yeah, pleased with that.
Done?
Yep.
Okay, I think we're just about there. Guys, send us a tweet to Matt or myself. What piece of memorabilia you would most like to buy? Not one of the ones we've picked on Heroes and Villains this week. Looking forward to getting your responses. And we'll send out a prize to the winner before the end of the week. Until next time, guys, thanks a lot for joining us.
He's gonna lose if he fights the likes of Kovalev, and he's possibly going to get knocked out as well. You don't want to see that. But you can understand why people would pick Hopkins, because on paper, Kovalev, knockout artist, like Kelly Pavlik, like Tavoris Cloud, who who Hopkins could possibly pick apart and school
and expose.
Yeah,
Sure. I mean, that's what Hopkins has done best, isn't it, over the years? I mean, Felix Trinidad, another.
Yeah.
So, yeah, plenty of school for thought there for Hopkins Kovalev. I wonder if they will try to do it. One of Hopkins' greatest hours was obviously at the Boardwalk Hall, where Kovalev fights next at the end of March. Be interesting to see what route they do go down. Obviously, the fight that everyone wants is Kovalev-Stevenson. So all being well, HBO will bank some money from this Stevenson fight or Kovalev fight, and then they can get those two in together.
Yeah. I mean, Thank you for watching and listening, and remember to subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit the like button on Facebook. Comment or write a review on iTunes or Google Play. It only takes a minute, and it does loads to help us produce shows like these.